Hi guys. So these are my thoughts on the National Educational Technology Plan from this week that we read about. Um, Reading over it was really interesting. I thought that it provided an excellent amount of information, and it was a good plan to have in place. It seemed to provide a lot of guidance for educators in a variety of ways. There's a few things that I really liked about it. I liked reading about the recent progress that they've made in creating these implementations in the schools. For instance, that they're having special software that can help us adapt our teaching for special needs of students that have just different learning capabilities. And I also like learning about where they were going and what their goals were. For instance, that they recognized that there was a need for widespread accessibility for all schools. And this is something I noticed when I was working at charter schools that they really needed the support. They had the computers, but they didn't have anyone teaching them how to use them, or even someone on campus to help if the computers broke down. So there's definitely some issues, but there's also a lot of positives in this plan. So a couple of things I supported were, the first thing was that the idea that they want to create a generation of people and beyond of people who can keep up with the 21st century and students that are knowledgeable enough to be good employees in the future and up to date on technology and globally relevant in the ways that are important. It said something about how they wanted to create kids that were globally relevant, competent, but also in a way that is safe. And so they are regarding the safety of the internet really important. And that's something that I know when we first were getting the internet and using it in schools, they didn't know how to make it safe or how to teach us to make it safe. So I think that's a really important thing that they want to implement. The other thing that I liked was that they're using technology in the classroom that can help teachers create engaging and meaningful lessons for students. Because students are using technology so much in their social lives, it's important to bring it into the classroom so that way it's still relevant for the students. And also technology just gives kids a freedom in learning because it provides visual learning, auditory learning, kinesthetic learning, and everything like that. So technology in the classroom really has a lot of positives, and it's really cool that this plan is in place to implement those. There were a few things I was concerned about reading through it. One of their goals I was reading about was that they wanted to have a robust infrastructure in place for technology in the classroom. I think it's a really good idea, but I think it can be very difficult to implement. Not only are costs on equipment pretty high, but technology requires in-school support. So if there's no one on campus to help if a computer breaks down or Wi-Fi goes down, it can really throw off a lesson. I witnessed that a lot when I was working in schools where computers were broken and there was no one there to fix it, so kids just couldn't do the lesson, or they'd have to share with a friend. So if that was something they wanted to implement, there has to be a backup plan for people in the school that can help fix them. And I know that rural areas would probably really suffer if this was the case because it's hard to bring in people who would be able to help with that. Another thing that I was concerned about was that they had this plan for potentially reducing costs in the schools so they could afford this technology. They suggested cutting areas like copy machines, physical textbooks, dedicated computer labs, and I can see why they would consider cutting these things, but also I think that those physical things like textbooks and paper, like worksheets, is vital for the classroom because some students learn better with those materials instead of just on the computer. So overall, I can't say that I feel like there's anything missing. They seem to have covered a lot of information in the plan, and it's really cool that they have that in place. I am curious about how they plan to implement over a timeline, if they have some sort of budget in effect, or how many years it would take to kind of implement this across the country. It seems like a very large goal, and I am really interested to see how that plays out. Some changes have occurred in schools for sure, but I just wonder how they will follow through with the grandness of all their plans that they have. So those are my thoughts on the National Educational Technology Plan.